In a recent video showing various ergonomic improvements to my Monstertech chair, one viewer pointed out that I needed an armrest riser, and they were absolutely right. So I bought one, and it sucks. It has a narrow base and is constructed of a stretchy fabric wrapped around some memory foam. The narrow base makes it decidedly unstable and prone to tipping. If you increase the strap tension to counteract the tipping, you're likely to tear them off completely from the flimsy attachment points. I do like the scalloped shape it has across the top. I think it helps index my arms into the same position each time, and it feels nice, but because of the aforementioned weaknesses, the ridges are not strong enough to provide a real tangible benefit. So I made my own. Using TPU or thermoplastic polyurethane, I can make a soft yet very robust rubber-like shape. After a certain thickness though, TPU becomes quite stiff. This makes it a very interesting material to work with, whereby varying the thickness of a cross-section, you can get very different levels of rigidity. TPU is also unmatched in layer adhesion and strength. For making a cushion though, we need to dial in our material density. This first attempt used 10% grid infill, and it's not very good at all. See, the grid infill means that we have row upon row of vertically oriented rectangular prisms. This makes the infill very resistant to forces acting along the vertical axis. When a material behaves differently across various axes, we call this anisotropic. The numerous corners of a grid pattern also have a significant effect in constraining the material. Each corner cuts down the length that filament can travel between anchors and makes it more rigid by tying it into the network. So we need to modify our print settings to reduce corners, make the print more isotropic, and increase the flexible lengths of the infill. The answer is actually quite obvious. Gyroid infill. Gyroids are really cool. They are a type of 3D minimal surface, meaning that its structure has the minimal amount of material used to form it. These can be used in all kinds of things and actually occur all the time in nature. Recently, I learned of some upcoming CPU coolers that use a metal 3D printed gyroid structure to increase the rate of heat transfer. We'll likely start seeing these in batteries as well. For our purpose today, there's a few key things about gyroids that make them very useful. First, no corners. Every length in this structure is a series of gently undulating curves. There's no corners forming anchor points that constrain the material. Second, gyroids are isotropic. It doesn't matter which axis you look at, the properties are always going to be the same. This makes it a lot easier for designing a cushion because we no longer have to worry about forces being handled differently depending on the axis. Third, gyroids form open cells. If you look at the standard memory foam or any other kind of closed cell foam, you'll see lots of tiny bubbles. Each of these is walled off from its neighbor. That means that air can't flow between them and is a big part of why memory foam can be such a great insulator. But with furniture, we're not always looking for insulation. If we allow air to flow, then we can carry heat away from our body instead of trapping it in the nearest cells. The cells within a gyroid are open to each other and allow this kind of flow to happen. With all that said, after reprinting with a gyroid infill, I ran into some other issues. The support material of the first iteration, similar to this one here, was extremely hard to remove. I thought I could make this easier on myself by using tree supports. Big mistake. I wish I had captured video of it taking well over an hour to remove the print from the build plate. Each base of the supports acted like an independent suction cup, keeping the print stuck to the bed. Since the trees could stretch and pull, it was very difficult to get even one of them to release. Since none of them were connected, that also meant fighting each tree support on an individual basis. I also ran into some clogging issues. TPU has been fairly reliable, but there's a number of things that can make it go south real quick. The end of the roll that this was started from had a small hook that prevented it from being taken through the Bowden tube. This caused the TPU in the tube to stretch to a degree where the gears were slipping on the skinnier profile. Since the end of the filament never reached the head and therefore never triggered the filament cutoff, the printer thought it was doing everything right. Between the obvious failure and my not wanting to touch these supports for removal, I had one more iteration to go. Switching back to boring normal supports, the next one went off without a hitch. The only issue was that I probably should have increased the top layers to account for such a low infill percentage and the subsequent bridging. In my chair, that won't be an issue because I plan to do more to it still. But for the recipient of the final version here, it results in a nicer look and no holes in the top. I also improved on the top shape by getting rid of the flat surface and making it into a wide radius. This makes the leading edge a lot more forgiving as you're not likely to have any pressure spots resulting from the tighter bends of the previous version. After all this tinkering, I'm pretty happy with the set I have on my desk. So who's getting this one then? Well, Merry Christmas, Salty Mike. This isn't a month late. Actually, it's 11 months early. Yes, I'm sending my fellow content creator and Star Citizen nerd a care package with all of my Monstertech mods so far. But I've got one more thing to show you guys before I send it off. This chair has a tilt lockout feature that allows you to restrict the lean at several intervals of its travel. The problem is, after adding all this hardware on the side of this 40-year-old Virgin setup, I can't reach the knob without leaning all the way forward. This makes it very difficult to actually set the angle I want without my back being able to provide that rearward force. If only there was a way to extend this arm to a position that made it easier to reach while reclined. Oh yeah, that's what this is. This is about as dead simple a solution I could ask for. I measured the bulbous shape of the knob as a guide and simply added on an extension to somewhere I could actually reach it. It includes a screw hole for added retention, but I've been using this for the past few weeks and haven't needed it at all. The simple friction fit is all it takes to stay in place. With this mod installed, I'm using my lockout so much more. If I'm watching a video, I'll lean back a bit more. When it's time to lock in for gaming, I can tilt it up and be supported, and when I'm doing homework, I'll leave the lock off so that I can move around as I think. So in addition to some risers and a lockout arm, I'm sending Mike a pair of VKB guards that you will have seen in a previous video. There's a few other things included as well, but I'll leave that up to Mike to do with as he pleases. I do want to close with a warning though. I could make this easy for you and remove the support material from the armrest risers, but I'm not gonna. I hope you try to do this on video or on stream because I think it will be hilarious. Just make sure you don't have your pets or your girlfriend within elbow range because they'd be highly at risk of catching one to the face. If you want to print any of these mods yourself, feel free to check the links in the description below. All of my free designs are available on MakerWorld, where I'm earning credit with every download toward my next 3D printer. I'll be migrating my paid designs to Thangs, where it will be easier to manage from one place. If you have a problem or a suggestion for a future video, feel free to drop those down below. This armrest riser was the result of one such comment, and I read each one, even the weirdly sexual ones and the mean ones. But ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this is Odd Job Entertainment, signing off.